Thank you, Mr. President. It sounds like my friend Senator Conrad and I are in agreement. You know, it's a bill that's not needed, and I do not support. I'm sure I've slipped in the past, but I really try mindfully to not support bills that aren't needed, that are do-nothing bills, that are bills that codify things that are already happening, that are bills that bring more government intervention and interference in the work of teachers in particular. I understand that Omaha Public Schools, OPS, the biggest school district in the state, they already have an online library of all the books in their library. So once again, sounds like the schools and the teachers are handling this just fine. Sounds like the parents are handling it just fine. And I won't be able to support LB 390 because it's just a bill that's not needed. But I alluded earlier, and I think now is a good time to bring up and kind of tie it back to the conversation about LB 390, that there are things happening on the federal level that honestly, colleagues, Nebraskans deserve to see their state legislators, their state lawmakers address. And in past years, I think that would have been more normal. Like, you would see a lot more kind of discussion of current events and tying it back into Nebraska on the floor of the legislature, and maybe a little bit more normal to take time on those types of issues. And I don't know, I can't believe we're already on day 41? We're on day 41 and we haven't really gotten into a lot of that. And it's not my intention to take a lot of time. It's only my intention to speak to Nebraskans, to tie it back into the issues at hand that are affecting the people I represent and who we affect through our votes here in the legislature. I know that in Nebraska, it's easy to feel distant from the headlines that are coming out of Washington, coming out of New York. But we need to pay attention to what's happening right now, because it's important that Nebraskans see their lawmakers making some sort of statement or acknowledgement. I want to talk about this weekend Mahmoud Khalil, who is a Columbia University graduate student and green card holder. He was arrested in his own home by plainclothes DHS agents. First, they told him that his student visa had been revoked, and then when Mr. Khalil said, "I don't have a student visa, I'm a green card holder, I'm a lawful permanent resident," they said that his green card was revoked too. No due process, no warrant shown, no explanation. His wife, who's 8 months pregnant, was threatened with arrest if she tried to intervene or do anything. His lawyer tried to intervene, only for agents to hang up on her. This is not law enforcement, colleagues. This is not fighting immigration. This is not keeping the border safe. It's political retaliation, period. And someone at the state level in Nebraska needs to stand up and say that. Khalil was a student activist. He was a leader in his campus's pro-Palestine movement. And now, in a country that claims to protect free speech, he's in government custody. And for days, he was in a location unknown. Nobody knew where he was, future uncertain, his rights erased with the stroke of a pen. For what? So it came out that he was being held in Louisiana, I think. And yesterday, just before 5 p.m., a federal judge ordered that he may not be removed from the United States by the Trump administration unless this judge orders it. And there's a conference scheduled for Wednesday. In addition, 14 members of Congress have signed a letter to DHS Secretary Kristi Noem calling for Mr. Khalil's release. And colleagues, this is not about one person. This is a test. This is the Trump administration seeing how far they can push, how much outrage we can withstand, and how easily they can rewrite the laws without any due process. And let's be honest, they are counting on us to not notice. They're counting on nobody to say anything and for all of us to move on. Even Ann Coulter, colleagues, even Ann Coulter has come out and said, this is authoritarianism. This guy is a lawful permanent resident. We cannot just kick him out of the country. And she said herself, there's almost nobody I don't want to kick out of the country. But this is authoritarianism. This isn't how we can allow this to happen. On my next time on the mic, I'm going to go back to why this matters to Nebraska. I see I'm just about out of time. Thank you, Mr. President. I also want to finish the points I was making about Mahmoud Khalil, who's a Columbia University graduate student who was arrested in his home by DHS. He's a lawful permanent resident and a green card holder. He was disappeared by the federal government, removed from his home and his 8-month pregnant wife. And I want to tell you why I'm speaking about this, because it does matter to Nebraska. If the federal government can target lawful permanent residents today, what stops them from coming for others tomorrow? This is not just something affecting New York. It's not something just affecting DC. It's not just something affecting Columbia University. Nebraska is home to immigrant families, to DACA recipients, to refugees, to international students, to green card holders like Khalil. If the government can strip the residency without any due process, without any explanation, what protects our neighbors? What protects our coworkers, our friends, our family members? And what happens when this escalates? Because we know it will. We saw the warning signs when Donald Trump promised mass deportations. Who else will they target? Teachers? Journalists, religious leaders, legislators? They're already targeting teachers who feel like they can't even put up a rainbow flag poster in their classroom. Is LB 390 helping that? We saw the warning signs at the National Convention when Republicans were all holding up signs, disgusting, shameful, that said mass deportations now. We saw it when his administration started monitoring social media for political speech. Now they're using AI to look at the social media accounts of federal employees to see if they're talking about DEI or whatever, so they can be targeted for firings. And now we're watching the federal government disappear a man, a lawful resident, for leading a protest, which in this country, people who fight for our country, people like Senator Brewer, who was under the balcony earlier, that is the right that these people have fought and died for over the generations. The right to protest, the right to say what you feel, and the right to have free political speech. We may be here in Nebraska. We're not at Columbia University. We're not in Congress. I can't tell you how many people are asking me to do something about this, and it's like, look, I'm just trying to block LB 390. I don't have the authority to do anything in Congress, obviously. But people don't understand because they are frantic and there is chaos, and they want some kind of stability and security from their elected leaders. Our state has a history in Nebraska of protecting immigrants, of standing up for civil rights, of rejecting authoritarianism. We have a proud, nonpartisan libertarian tradition in this state, and we have the platform, colleagues, to demand answers. I think that we need to call on Nebraska's congressional delegation to condemn this unlawful detention of Khalil. We need to publicly stand in defense of due process and free speech, regardless of political ideology. And we need to ensure that Nebraska does not cooperate with any illegal or politically motivated immigration enforcement actions. History will ask if we stood and rolled over and let the federal government take control of our state, or if we fought back. And we have the responsibility to sound the alarm before it's too late. Because the truth is, if they can take away Mahmoud Khalil's rights, they can take away yours too. Thank you, Mr. President.